Okay, in this video we're going to see how we can make a proximity driven door that opens when the player gets near it and closes behind the player when they leave the door area. We're going to be programming in C#, and in this scene I have just a very generic setup. I have a door frame made out of just some simple cubes. Think of this as a static mesh inside of your scene that's separate from the actual doors opening and closing. And I have a door right here. So let's do some quick scene setup to get rolling here. Alright, so pause right now and maybe kind of make this kind of setup. I just have some cubes grouped under a door frame and a flat cube for the door. Alright, so what we need to do is we need to make a empty game object, and we're going to call this our auto door. Our auto door is going to be the game object that encompasses all the moving parts, collision, and actual meshes of your door. So what we're going to want to do is let's go ahead and get our doors made. Right now you can see I only have a right door. So before we, let's go ahead and duplicate this door right here. And let's make our left door. And what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to rename them differently. Door right. Alright. And door left. Great. Let's go ahead and group those two doors under our auto door right there. And what we're going to want to do, we're going to want to create another getEmpty game object. We're going to call this our door animator. And we're going to want to group these under our door animator. But you know what? Before we group those, let's make sure the values are reset to 0. And let's go ahead and regroup those. Put them in our auto door. Fantastic. And we're going to do one more thing. We're going to create another cube. Let's reset its values to 0. And we're going to make this our impenetrable wall that you can't pass through. We're going to have our own special object devoted just to preventing the player from passing through the door. So we're going to do that. We're just going to model a cube roughly the same dimensions of this whole door area, and we're going to turn off mesh renderer, and we're going to keep our box collider turned on. Great. This is going to give us more finer control over who can pass through this door. And let's call this door collider. Alright, and let's place this under auto door. Alright, we're looking great right now. So let's set up one more thing under our auto door group. See how it's all blank because it's an empty game object. Let's go ahead and add component physics and capsule collider. This capsule collider is going to be what determines who gets through, or rather the proximity of our auto door. So basically tweak it just however you want. You can bring it up. In this green wireframe, any player that passes through it will trigger the doors opening and closing. So you can tweak it to be however wide you want. But anytime a player enters this green area, it's going to trigger our door opening and closing. Okay, great. What we're going to want to do now is we're going to want to bring in a character controller for our player and test the collision detection of our proximity capsule we just made. So under assets, let's right click our assets, let's import package and go to character controller. We'll just import all that. Alright, let it do its thing. Under character controllers here, first person controller, let's just drag and drop it into our scene. I like to put my character controller at the top. Let's reset its position. And I like to turn on my side view and turn it to isometric just so I can get the right kind of height. Because if it's too low, your character will fall through the world. So let's zoom in and let's test that. Great. Alright. So we have our player controller set up and everything's ready to go. We're going to make our first script now. So let's go to our assets and create a new folder in the very root directory, and let's call this scripts. Alright, great. Let's click in scripts. And what we're going to want to do now is we're going to right click here. We're going to go to create C# script. We're going to right click in that empty window. And let's call this door control. No spaces. Scripts do not like to have spaces in them. Alright, so with our door control now made, let's go ahead and with our auto door visible right here, let's go ahead and click and drag our door control script onto our auto door. So now we see we have a new component on our auto door group called door control script. Let's right click on our door control and bring up monodevelop. Alright, great. So your typical void start and void update aren't going to be used in this class, or this script rather. What we are going to use are two new public void statements called public void on trigger enter, and let's go ahead and write collider and name whatever we're going to collide with other right now. It's just an other object, and let's put our brackets in. Let's go ahead and roll up our other public statement, void on trigger exit. I'm going to test with a collider, and we'll just name that other for right now. These two functions here will check for any type of object entering or exiting our capsule collider we made. Remember our capsule collider? This script right here will be what drives the detection inside this capsule. But we need to tell Unity, okay, what is going to be detected, because right now nothing's being detected. We're not specifying what this other is. Okay, so to do that, we're going to write an if statement. If other dot tag equals player, then let's make some brackets. I love auto formatting, and I'm just going to copy this and paste it in our exit. So right now we've specified if the others tag, other just is a symbol for any kind of game object that might wander through our capsule. If the others dot tag equals player, then we're going to do this code. Alright, well, what is tag and what is player? Well, that's a pretty nice way Unity handles calling objects within code. We can add tags to our game objects. So if I select my first person controller and go to untagged, see this tag right here? I can change it to any of these. I can even add my own custom tags. But we already have a nice player tag set up. So let's go ahead and select our player tag. And now our first person controller is tagged as a player. And guess what? Dot tag equals player. Now Unity knows what object to look for in our scene to trigger the code we want to run, which is opening and closing our door. Before we do that though, let's do some debugging so we can make sure we're on the right track right now. So I'm going to write a debug.log and write some test code. So if I enter the capsule collider, I'll print enter to the console screen. If I exit, remember to put those quotation marks, it'll write exit to the console screen. And let's save, and hopefully Unity won't blow up on us. Alright, great. So let's hit play, and now anytime I get close to this door, we should see enter and exit written in the console. Wait a minute, it's not writing. I'm not even getting close to the door. What's going on here? Well, I intentionally left this step out. Right now, our capsule collider trigger is set to off. Since we're using triggers on this capsule collider, we need to check trigger. This will allow us to pass through, and instead of keeping us out, it'll now look out for the code that's attached to it. So enter, exit, enter, exit, enter, exit. Looking good so far, right? So Unity detects when I enter and writes enter, and exits to know when I exit. So we know that our proximity detection is working quite nicely right now. Alright, so what do we need to do now? Well, I guess we need to maybe let's take care of that collider on our door. Remember door collider? So how do we do that? Well, let's go ahead and make a public variable. We're going to call this public game object. And I'm already skipping on my naming convention. Proper naming convention in Unity is first word lowercase, every subsequent word uppercase. That's just the way Unity likes to have it. Alright, so when I make this public game object called collision object and I hit save, let's look and see what it does to our auto door script. All of a sudden it creates this collision object thing and it has none game object. What this effectively does is it allows us to plug in any kind of game object in our scene, and when we plug it into our script over here in our inspector, we can now get at it in our code over here. So we want to take care of our door collider, right? So with my auto door group selected, I'm going to want to select my door collider because it's what's keeping the players in or out of the scene, right? And I'm just going to drag and drop it onto my collision object. And now, with my collision object defined in my inspector, I can start calling different code on this game object of the door collider. Alright, great. So whenever I get close to it, I want to deactivate the collision on the object, and when I leave it, I want to reactivate the collision on the door collider. So simple code now, since we got that nice public game object variable. Let's go to collision object. See, now we're calling the variable we just specified. Dot set active is false. That's effectively just going to shut down the whole game object like it doesn't exist in the scene. Alright. And let's just do the same here, except whenever we exit it, we're going to set that to true. It's a nice boolean, a true or false variable. And whenever we leave, we're going to turn on my collision object. What's my collision object again? I can't remember. Remember, we specified our collision object whenever we moved our door collider over in this value right here. So basically Unity's saying, okay, I got my door collider and it's plugged into this variable here on my door control script. And now since I have my door collider plugged into this public variable, I can get at it in my code, which now it's called the collision object. And within this if statement, I can set my door collider to false when I enter the area. Alright, so let's hit play. And now, there we go. Oh, well, what's happening? I still can't pass through the doors. And I'm not getting any errors, so I know I got my syntax right. Well, let's go back and check our door right and door left. Look at that. Our doors already have collision on them. And that's not what we wanted. We wanted our door collider to handle our collision to get through the door. So let's just select both of these doors and get rid of that box collider on them. Now our doors are just eye candy and they don't really have any kind of collision detection on them. Only our door collider does. So let's test it now. And you can see we can pass right through it. Great. Alright, so now that we got that set up, let's go ahead and add our actual animation to our scene here. Okay, so now we got our collision working. Let's go and add our animation again. Alright, so we got our door right and door left and our door animator. What we're going to want to do is we're going to select our door animator group and we're going to go to Window, Animation. Alright, and this brings up our animation dope sheet and curve editor within Unity. With my door animator selected, let's hit the record button. Well, before we do that, let's make a folder over here in our assets. Right click here and let's call this animations. So I have a nice place to store all my animations in my game project. So we're going to hit, with our door animator selected again up here, let's hit record and let's select our animations folder and let's call this door open. And this is going to create a clip, in which we can open our doors. Alright, so now you'll see a few things. You'll see we now have a red line, the record button's active, and not much else is going on here. So what we're going to do is we're going to select our door right. Notice how we still have door open clip selected. Let's go ahead and add a curve now. With my door right selected, I'm going to add a curve, and I'm going to select transform and position. Alright, great. So my door has already got these little diamonds, which are keyframes. They mark the position and time in which the object is existing. So if we go all the way over to 1 second, let's go ahead and see how I just click and drag the red line here. Let's get it right on 1 second, and let's move our door, let's say 1.6. Alright, so now you'll see on the time slider it auto keyed where my door opens. Remember, before you move your object, you want to already have it on the time that you want the object to be at. So let's do the same thing for my left door. We're going to select it, we're going to add curve, transform, there we go. We're going to select door left down here, we're going to select transform, position. Now we have door left and door right here. We're on our second we want it to be at, and let's do negative 1.6. So now we have our doors opening. Great. Alright, let's hit the record button, and let's see what we got now. Let's hit play. Now we have a repeating animation of our doors opening and closing. Alright, so what did it create in our scene here? Well, we have two things now. We have a door animator, which will control all of the logic behind our animations, and we actually have our door clip. Let's go ahead and select our door open clip and check off loop time. Alright, we don't want it to loop, we just want it to do it once within our game scene. And what we got to do now is we got to create our door closing animation. Alright, so to do this, we're simply going to go to our animation window right here with my door animator selected. We're going to go to create new clip, and let's call this door close. Alright, great. So same thing here. We're going to add a curve with my door right selected, position, and with my left door selected, we're going to add curve, select my door left right here, and hit position again. But instead of our doors being open at the end of the clip, where these little diamond keyframes are, we're going to select it at the beginning. And if we can remember, our values were about, what, negative 1.6? Yeah, that looks pretty good. Let me add a curve for door right real quick. There we go. And I think that was about at, let me expand that again, 1.6 as well. So I can test it out, and now we have the opposite happening. We have our doors closing. And we're just going to hit record and cancel that out. And now we have a door open and door close right here. And now we have our two animation clips that we're going to need to make this work. Alright, so if we go to my door animator group, you're probably wondering why I made a group just called door animator with the doors under it. Well, when I select it now, after I made all those animations, remember how I made sure I had door animators selected before I made each clip? I now have an animator component right here, which is going to drive the animation of the doors within it. Alright, so that's very important. That's what our code's going to be able to access, okay? So now we need to write a little bit of code. We'll go over here. Let me bring that back. And we need to make another public game object. And let's call this door animator. And we'll hit save. And then we'll look at my auto door. Now I have a new public game object variable right here. and nothing's selected, and there's no game object. We're going to just take our door animator and we're going to drag and drop it on there. That's now going to give us access to this animator component within our code. Remember, it was empty until I drag and dropped it right into my empty public variable place right there. So now let's go to my code. Now that I have door animators set up, I need to create a private variable, private of type animator, because this is going to allow us to make a local variable within our code, and we'll call it animate. This is what we're going to access within our code to get the animations running. Alright, now that I have animate there, let's write some code. Alright, so what is animate going to get at? We need to specify that. Animate is going to equal to door animator, which is our variable we specified up there, dot game object dot get component, and then we're going to use our greater than or less than animator. That basically says, okay, animate is going to be a new local variable within our code. What is it going to specify though? What is it going to mean? It means we're going to grab our door animator game object we just made, which was specified by our dropping and dragging our animator right here in our code. So from door animator into our script, door animator will now point to this animate variable, but what part of door animator we want to get at? Well, we want to get at the animator component on it. So we write this string of code, get component animator. Now we have a local variable called animate. Oh, forgot the semicolon. And now we can just do animate dot set bool is open. Well, you know what? Before we do that, we need to set up our animation logic within our window. So I'm just going to copy and paste this down here again. So now we need to be able to say, okay, we got our access to our animator. What clips do we actually want to call? We haven't specified which clips we want to call when we enter or exit. We need to set that up now. So to do that, and we'll figure out those messages later. I think it's because it's saying there's no bools there. Okay, so to do the animation logic, we're just going to click on our door animator. It looks like this cube with smaller squares in it. We're going to double click it, and now we have a weird looking node based work environment. Alright, so we need to do a few things here, so bear with me. We have our clips here. Alright, before we start anything, let's make an idle state. So we'll create state and we'll go to empty. So we have this new state here, and in our inspector we have all the properties associated in the new state. So let's call this idle. Great. What we need to do now is we need to make connections between all of these, the different states we have. So to do that, we make transitions. So we're going to make a new transition to door close. Alright. Or rather, okay, if you make a wrong connection, just select it and hit the delete key. I want to have my door open on the bottom. That's just the way I like to work. We'll make a transition to door open. Alright, and now let's make our logic between door open and door close. Let's make some transitions. One going to door close, and door close transitioning to door open. Alright, so this is what we call a node-based work environment, in which we have different nodes that control different parts of the thing, which these clips control the animations of the doors. Now we need to add a parameter we actually access in our code. So if I go to parameters and make a bool, and let's call this is open. Now I have a new variable I can access in code called is open. It's a true false boolean. And to assign this parameter to my clips to know which one plays depending on how I call the code, I'm going to click on these little arrows here and see how it says condition. We're now going to have is open, And from idle to door open, it's going to be true. And let's see. Then we're going to select our from door closed to door open transition with our arrow pointing down. We're going to set our open to true. And then our door close is open will be set to false. Alright. So this is our animation logic. We have all of our clips here connected with transitions. We have our parameter is open that we'll be able to call in code. Now we can get back to our code and finish that up. Alright, great. Let's bring back Unity. How about that? And bring back MonoDevelop. Alright. So now that we have our local variable called animate, we need to be able to say, okay, animate, what are you going to do? So animate dot set bool is open. Remember that parameter we made? It's right here. So is open in quotations, comma, true. So that code's basically calling anytime is open is set to true, it's going to make the transition from door closed to door open. It's going to run it because is open is true in this transition, so it's going to go from door closed to door open. So that's basically how that logic kind of works. So we're just going to go down here, just copy and paste because typing's for suckers, and we're just going to change this to false. Alright, so anytime we exit, we're going to run the false is open, and it's going to go from door open to door closed because this transitional arrow is set to false. Alright, so let's go to our scene view. First, let's save our code in MonoDevelop. And let's figure out why we're getting this error message. Let's see. Convert method, non-delegate. I know what I did wrong. You got to add parentheses to the end of this animator right here. So a little bit of a syntax error. Sorry if you got confused there. But this is the statement that you need to write here with the greater than or less than, accessing the component of our door animator game object with parentheses right there. And that should make Unity quite happy. So the moment of truth comes. What's going on here? It's just looping into infinity. I think we forgot to do something. Look at our clips. Our loop time is set to 0 on door open, but door close is still looping. So make sure you uncheck those loops there. Otherwise it's just going to have the crazy loop that you just saw. So now when we go, exit, enter, exit. But you'll notice something else happened. Boom. It opens randomly at the beginning of it. That's because we got to do one more thing in our door animator. We go to idle. Let's right click on idle and set it as default. Right now, door open is set at default, so when Unity first starts, the default clip for this whole animation process is going to be door opening. That's why we made this idle node right here. So we can set it as default, and when we hit play, the door stands still. It only opens when we get close, and now exits when we get away. Pretty nice, right? So you can use this kind of method to create swinging doors, doors that open from the side, doors that have all kinds of different moving parts, like a middle part goes up and the left part goes left, and slant part slants to the bottom, all by just grouping your inspector correctly or your hierarchy correctly and using the same methods here. Alright, so now that I have my auto door made, let's say I want to reuse this whole system and have multiple doors throughout my level. Let's make a few door frames here. Alright, we'll make a door frame that goes straight back. And let's make an irregular door frame that's like maybe at an angle. Well, rather than just recreate this code constantly, let's create a prefab folder. Call it prefabs. And let's select our auto door and drag and drop it into our prefabs. Now we have an auto door that we can place in multiple areas within our game world. So I'm just going to put auto door in here. We can position it like so. I can duplicate that prefab. Let's go to top view and then click top to go to isometric. That way we can rotate this guy perfectly in. Alright. You can even go to wireframe mode to get the position just right. Looks like I need to rotate it a little bit more. Perfect. So let's go back to textured mode. Turn it off to isometric. There we go. And now open, open, and open. Alright, so that's how we can create a proximity driven auto door inside of Unity using capsule colliders, the animation system, and calling the script to access the animation system. Perfect. Alright, thanks guys.